welcome aboard to a short and brief, I hope, train sim world on the class 66 locomotive. I noticed a posting on the forums by another user, and they had mentioned that they were having problems with the class 66 and the brakes not being set up properly and so forth. So I thought I'd go into this briefly and see if I can see what they are seeing and try and figure things out and assist in any way I can. I need to preface that I learned this from a real-world train engineer who happens to be playing Train Sim World 3, and they just so happen to be very familiar with the Class 66 locomotive. And can't think of the name off the top of my head right now, but when I find it, I'll have it in the description below. He actually did 2 videos on a cold startup and what is normally done to prep the train and what needs to be done before you even move the train. So, but I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm just going to go through and see what's going on and make this as short as possible. Hopefully, this is the longest I'll be talking when not doing anything. But anyway, train depot, timetable. Class 66, Class 66 EWS. It's where I found the timetable scenario that was in question. Now, this had me a little confused because while there were updates to Train Sim World 3, I didn't realize these changes were made because not all of these trains are high-speed trains, but that's neither here nor there. But to get to where we need to go, or I need to get to, go to London Commuter, go to Midland, Mainline, Leicester, Derby, and Nottingham. Just so happens a Class 60. Yeah, I'm pointing at it like people can see this. Anyway, so we go down here, and it's this one here. 6 Frank 46 Stapleford sidings, the Cliff Hill Stud Farm. Starts at 01:47 in the morning, and it's a 26-minute scenario. I am not going to be doing the entire scenario. I'm just going to go through what I think this other player was having an issue with, or if there is an issue at all with the train not being able to move. So let's get going. Okay, here we are. 6 Frank 46 Stapleford sidings to Cliff Hill Stud Farm, 0:47 and 56 seconds in the morning. 1:47 in the morning. I made a ubu. So you are to drive an empty aggregate train from Towton to Leicester. Oh, I'm sure I got that a little screwed up, but I apologize. And not being from the neighborhood, it's a little bit harder for me I'd have to put it into Google Translate and figure out how to say it. And anyway, let's get started. So we're actually going from Attenborough to Leicester. Let's get started. So, here we are already basically, well, not basically, the engine's already running. So let me get some cab lights on here. Instrument lights. Okay, this is already in service. If this is not, it needs to be in service. If not, then the brakes are not going to operate the way you want them to. And we want to get day headlights, or day headlights, yes. Night headlights. And now we're not going to need desk lighters over here. This is where the desk light is. So right now, the bogies are basically... Oh, they're really climbing up there. Okay, so the brakes are fully engaged on the bogies. The parking brake is off. And everything seems to be ready to go. So on this particular locomotive, on this Class 66, you cannot use this data cord 6100. They have another, the person that I learned all this from, I think they call it something else, but it's basically a log who's using the train, what they're doing, the length of the train, the weight of the entire consist, I should say, and but that's not something that we, the player, will be using in that detail. But there, on other Class 66 locomotives, you can get into, if you want to do the math, and how many cars are in the consist, what's the weight, and make sure your brake. This helps tell the train the how to set up the brakes, so to speak. Is the best way I can explain it. But anyway, so the person was having a problem getting the train moving, and okay, right now everything's in neutral. Let me put that forward. So the brakes aren't releasing. I'm using the rail driver, and I'm not getting. Well, I got up to 5 bar, but the bogies aren't releasing. The independent brake or direct brake is released. So no matter what you do here, right now, you can throttle the engine all you want, nothing's going to happen. So for whatever reason, the train is not completely set up for the player. Now I did a lot of fumbling around because it's been a long time since I've used this particular locomotive, and when I did use it, it was on my Xbox One X. So right now, all safety systems are, the 2 safety systems, DSD and the AWS, are deactivated, isolated. And there is a checklist that you really should go through when you're starting up any train, really, which took a while for me to get to understand everything. The 2 toots you just heard signals that the train brakes will be released and will begin moving. So we're going to leave this off. The only reason why I make mention of this, the DSD isolation switch being isolated and the AWS fuse being off, I isolated, is only because I have run into other scenarios, other weird things on other scenarios with different locomotives. So that's the only reason why I'm bringing that up. I doubt that it would have anything to do with it, but you never know. So I'm going to leave that off. And in order to get the brakes set up properly, you have to use this computer, the electromotive, as it's labeled. And I did check this before, and I kind of foobarred everything up, so I'm redoing it. Basically, you can't make this any brighter. The bright dim switch isn't working. So use the arrow keys, and if you come down here, go to traction cutout and select, it shows that all the bogies are set to cut in on truck 1. And, well, not all the bogies. Okay, it's not all the bogies, it's 1 bogie, truck 1. So everything is set to go. Truck 1, truck 2, both bogies, the wheel brakes are all set to go. And the one thing that has to be changed is the brake cutout here. Okay, brake cutout here. Now, from what I saw briefly today, the person that may have been having a problem, they worked their way around everything. They kind of got things going, but I figured I'd redo the video anyway. Maybe a little late to the game, but hopefully this will be helpful to others. So you select that, it's set to cut out. This is why the train will not move and will not release the bogies. And even though you got 5 bar here, you could force the train if you really wanted to and put it up to and you'll struggle along, but it's not good because you could break things. And good thing this is not the real world. But anyway, put that back to neutral. Oh, since I'm using a rail driver. Anyway, let's bring this back, get back up here, and we select cut in, exit. And at first I thought maybe it wasn't taking, it wasn't when you selected cut in, it wasn't working, but it is. Okay, and the bogies are going down to 0, and they're released. You got 5 bar on the main brake pipe, and so now we should be all set to go. Put the reverser in forward and give it to Nacho 2. And give it Nacho 3, and we're moving. Okay. So basically that's, once the train is already running, let me bring this down to Nacho 0, apply some brake. Okay. Now, if you're in a situation where the train is not already running, okay, I'm going to leave all the lights on. Put the parking brake on, and here it shows on, and on here it'll show parking brake is applied. So we'll exit that, and since we're still selected on the brakes cutout, select that, select cutout, and exit. Okay, put it back to the way it was. You come into the train. This is basically a cold start. So with the brakes fully applied, okay, the more you apply it, the more you have, and it'll hold automatically to the brakes. So put the independent brake or direct brake on, fully applied. So with the rail driver, it's a little bit wrong one. Okay. The automatic brake is, as far as what the gauge is showing and what I just did, is completely disengaged. Now, to start the locomotive back up, whether it's already part of a full consist or not, make sure this engine stop button is not pressed and it's showing released. And the isolation run switch needs to be in the isolate position, off. The other 3 should be on. Okay? I'm going to give it a minute. And you notice the bogies are back up with the brakes fully applied. Now this is set to goods. That's another thing I'll get to in a minute once I get the train back started up. Because that also is part of setting up the brakes. So right now, put that into neutral, reverser into neutral for the reverser, 0 Nacho on the throttle. Okay, let me get there. Getting myself, trying to do things too quickly. Haste makes waste. Okay. Since don't have to worry about that because I have it isolated. So engine's running. Okay. Sometimes, from what I understand, if this particular locomotive has been sitting off because it wasn't needed for a day or 2 or whatever, it may take a little longer to get it started because it's got to lubricate and get all the juices flowing, so to speak, Okay, so now we put this isolation switch to start stop back to run. Okay, and we'll come back up here to this electromotive, and no load, engine is not running. Seems to be running. Okay, so we're gonna hit reset here, and we're gonna go to, we don't need slow speed. Traction cut out, that should still be cut in, each one. Yep. Both set to cut in on both bogies. Come on, exit. Okay, let's see, I believe is it this one? Now this gives you other information, not what I'm looking for. So we'll go back to, let's see, brake timing. Yeah, here we go. Brakes will use passenger timing. No, you're hauling coal, freight. That needs to be changed. Brakes will use goods timing, meaning you're hauling a load of steel, a load of coal, tanker cars, grain, whatever, anything other than passenger. Okay, that is also key to setting up the brakes. Then we go back down to brakes cut out. Select, come on. It's set to cut out. We need cut in. Right up here, this should say, should be showing cut in. Okay. Does F4 really work on that? No, it doesn't on a keyboard. Okay. Yeah, I wish this would turn into a little hand cursor all the time. Okay. So now that is set up. Okay, that's it. While you're doing all that, the reverser must be in neutral. And because this is a two-headed train, you need to make sure that all these brake controls are set to either off, released, especially the emergency valve. So you got to make sure that all of that is not engaged, because if it is, you're never going to get this train to move, no matter what you do up here, and there's really nothing in here. But like I said, the only reason why I bring up the DSD and AWS is I've run into some weird things, and you never know what is going to interact with another. And I don't go looking for all these. It seems like, I run into them or they happen to find me. But anyway, see, that should not be showing passenger. But anyway, we have that set up in here. So we're gonna disengage the parking brake, and parking brake is released. Okay, so we're still at 5 bar here on the brake pipe. So now we're gonna release the independent brake, or as it's called, the direct brake here. But you notice when no power is being applied to the locomotive at all. 0 amps, and we're already rolling. The bogies have released their brake. The bogie brakes have been released, and brake pipe is at 5 bar, the way it should be in order to move the locomotive. So to get the train moving, give it to Nacho 3. But here we go, we're moving, and that was, oh look, the trees branches coming into the train. Okay, so that's that. Let's apply some brakes here. Use a direct brake. That's really meant for just the locomotive itself, but amazingly, it's stopping the train very quickly, considering the amount of cars you're pulling. Or you could use the automatic brake, and you can apply the amount of brake you want, and it'll automatically hold. But that's that. And if those settings pertaining to the brakes aren't set the way I just showed, and sometimes, it doesn't hurt to pull the reverser out, put it back in, because that is your key to the train. Sometimes that helps to kind of like reset things a little bit. And if need be, put the reverser in neutral, put the throttle into Nacho 0, apply your brakes, as I have done here on both brakes, and shut the locomotive down. Okay, there's another way. Let me see if it'll work with this particular locomotive, because there are several different versions of this. So this I also learned from the real world engineer that used to or still does engineer this particular locomotive for a living in the UK, mind you, because I don't even know if this is even in America, to be honest with you. But anyway, all the brakes are on. I'm not going to bother touching the cutout settings. I'm just going to leave everything the way it is. I'm going to give it a minute, and parking brake is off. Okay, I see. The light lights up. I didn't see that light up before. That's very bright. Wow. So it is showing you that it's set to goods, right? Tankers, steel, grain, auto racks, whatever you're going to haul with this train, with this locomotive. So we're already at 2:11 in the morning. So we're at roughly 15, 20 minutes. I'll work with my daughter to get this cut down. But anyway, make sure this engine stop button is released. Now all of these are off. Yeah, I don't think it'll work with this particular locomotive. Let's see what happens. Supposed to be 10 seconds. Try one more time before I change the switches there underneath the reverser. Now, if you go on a PC version, you go into the training center, there's several different Class 66 locomotives. You can practice this in there, and one of them will give you the option to use this data cord 6100. Okay, that's not working on this particular locomotive, this version. So we'll turn these three on, leave the fourth one off. Okay, there you go. The yin is running. Turn that switch from isolation to run, and let's release the auto brake, release the direct brake, and that'll get the bogies down to 0. Put the reverser in forward, and we'll give it the Nacho 3. Oh, you know what would help? If I release the parking brake. That would help. Okay, and we're moving. So that's that. Hopefully this was helpful and informative. Okay, let me stop this train, because like I said, I'm not going to do this full scenario. There's a lot of other things that are still being worked on. Put the direct brake on, and we'll apply. There you go, bring that to 4. Now you can always also, to help get things going a little bit quicker, you can press the overcharge button, okay? And what I'll do is, you know what? Let me release the automatic brake to 5 bar, get it up to 5 bar. By pressing the overcharge brake, this gives you a little bit more on your brake pipe. It just basically gives you a little bit of a helping hand to get things going, provided that you release the bogie brakes and you're all set to go. And that's pretty much it. I'll put the links to this other video, the other 2 videos. One of them is quite lengthy, but it's very informative. I learned a lot as far as what is really required before you even move this locomotive from wherever you are. So I'll put this back up to 5 bar, apply the brakes, put the reverse into neutral. There you go, all set to go. And that's that. For the most part, I mean, for the first time, I was completely, and I tried looking for the manual, and at first I didn't even know where to find it. I ran across, just by haphazard, this person's video on how to properly set up and the brakes, how to do your inspection and everything else with this particular locomotive. And I do like it. I even kind of like the sound. Some people may not, but I do like this locomotive. It does run really well. Even though the speed limit's a bit on the low side, it's not a high-speed train locomotive then anyway. But there you go. That's that. And hopefully this was informative, helpful. And if you feel that I've done a decent job, good job, smash that thumbs up, likes button. Leave your comments down below. Constructive criticism is always welcome. And share, subscribe. By all means, do come back again. Köszönöm szívesen, hogy itt voltatok. Gyertek vissza akármikor. És nincs más mit mondani, csak majd látlak máskor. Egy szervusz. With all that said and done, thanks for being here. Y'all come back now you're here. And bye-bye for now.